the Government Operations and Fiscal Policy Committee. We have, I think, 4 items today, and we are actually going to switch our order around a bit. We're going to start with our FY27 cable plan review. Thank you for everyone being here. And then we're going to actually bump up item 4 to number 2, the FY27 to 32 capital improvements program for technology services, because our TEBS department is here for both issues, and we didn't want to make you sit through the general government CIP. So you want to. You could stay if you want. So we'll just move item 4 to item 2, and then item 2 will become item 3, and item 3 will become item 4. Okay, does that work for everybody? Awesome. All right, so let's get started on our first item. This is our cable review plan. This is a discussion item. There are no votes today. I want to thank Dr. Torregas for all his work on putting together the packet and working with TEBS to put together answers to all the questions. This has been looking at our cable funds, something we've done on this committee for a number of years. And we were the beneficiaries of an excellent OLO report 2 years ago that really laid out where we are with our cable funds and some options moving forward. Just to pull out one of the things that OLO report said, it said a new paradigm is needed. Talk about a daunting task. But that is really where we are with our cable funds, with thinking about how we're providing this service to our residents and the resources that we have. And I think this is even more of an important conversation to have right now as we think about how we deliver information to our residents, as we are seeing dwindling newspaper coverage in this area, as we are seeing the rise of a lot of misinformation and the need to make sure that our residents have a resource that they can count on, that is trusted to go to for information. And so this is a very timely conversation that we will have today. I'm going to first turn it over to Dr. Torregas to set us up, and then we'll turn it over to Mr. Kenny, Mr. Webster, and I know we have other folks from TEBS and other people from other MCM and other departments here who can jump in and answer questions. So, Dr. Torregas, may you take us away?
Thank you very much. As you know, the reason you're here is because in the budget resolution number 18 for the fiscal 26 budget, there's a paragraph that reads, future cable plant strategy. The executive must submit to the County Council's Government Operations Committee a strategic plan that will frame fiscal 27 budget allocations from the cable fund no later than January 15th. And indeed, the executive did send over on January the 9th such a plan, which you have in the packet. Please note that, as you mentioned, there are no decisions to be made, but the whole notion is that the executive is listening to this conversation as he prepares his fiscal year 27 operating budget, which contains the how does he plan to spend the cable fund monies. I won't say too much. You have it in front of you. I'll just mention the fact that I do have from pages 7 to 9 additional questions beyond the ones that I asked and TEBS very quickly answered on my behalf. So I have some additional questions that you may want to take a look at as this work session unfolds. And perhaps Karen Randolph, who is the Deputy Director of our TEBS, might want to kick off the discussion from the executive side. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm happy to be here and be a part of the discussion as we talk about all of the work that I know that Mr. Derek Kinney has been putting in. As you know, I'm not quite a year in, so I've been educating myself a lot, and I really do appreciate the 2023 OLL report because that really helped me get a baseline. And as we have our discussions anywhere that I can jump in, just to let you know where I am and what planning we're putting in place to bring this issue to resolution, I'll be happy to do that. But most of the conversation, I think, will be with Mr. Kinney.
Good morning, Derek Kinney, Community Engagement Manager. Thank you for listening to us today and to continue to support the efforts of the Access Operations in the county and, of course, Debs in providing oversight. I do have a PowerPoint that will look very familiar to some of you. If you'd like, I can share it, or I can just, okay? And what I'd like to do is just give you a quick, brief overview of the plan, what we're dealing with, who we're dealing with, and how do we get here, and where we're going to try to get to. So first, we'll start with the quick overview of the strategy. The Technology and Enterprise Business Solutions Strategy for FY 26-27 outlines a transformative vision for Montgomery County's access operations. So the plan provides a comprehensive reorganization of the county's public and education and media services. That's the heart of what we're doing. You'll hear the term consolidation quite a bit, but we're consolidating with the hopes that we maintain the strength and integrity associated with the three organizations involved. At its core, the strategy aims to consolidate the county's community and education access of media operations under a single external organization, which is Montgomery Community Television. This entity will operate under an updated contractual agreement with the county, ensuring streamlined governance, improved oversight, and enhanced service delivery. The plan emphasizes sustainability, inclusivity, and innovation, aligning media services with the county's broader goals of community engagement and digital equity. Usually at this point, I defer to Joe, who can give us a quick overview of what the Cable Fund is and kind of some of the reasons why we have it and where we are. So, Joe.
Thank you, Derek. Good morning, everyone. My name is Joe Webster. I'm Chief Broadband Officer in TEBS. The Cable Fund was created decades ago when cable franchises were new to the county and cable operators were building out their infrastructure. It is a fund that cable franchise associated revenues are put into this fund, and then the fund is used to provide revenues and funding sources for our public educational and government access channels, as well as historically some other operational needs. As everyone is aware, the franchise fee revenues have been declining steadily and fairly dramatically as cord cutting, cord shaving, and cord never continues to happen. And those franchise fee revenues are only associated with franchise fees from traditional cable television programming services broadcast over traditional cable television networks. So if you buy cable television services via YouTube TV and watch CNN or HBO on that, no franchise fee revenues from that. There are no franchise fee revenues from internet access for residential customers. There are no franchise fee revenues from telephone services provided over these networks, just strictly traditional cable TV provided over those traditional networks. So as people have been, again, cutting that cord, shaving it, or for many folks who've never had a cable television subscription, cord nevers, those franchise fee revenues have been declining steadily at about 2% per quarter. So in the early days, decades ago, it was very lucrative source of revenue, I'll say, for the county and for all the PEG channels, a bit of a cash cow. We are now in a very different situation where the franchise fee revenues are becoming thinner and thinner every year, and it makes difficult decisions for all of us we have to make in order to decide how to best allocate those revenues and what are really the key critical functions that need to be performed and by who. So that's brief background. I'll turn it back over to Mr. Kenny.
Thanks, Joe. So one of the questions you may have is, who is Derek Kinney and how did he get to this point and why is he sitting in this chair? And as many great things associated with recent efforts, it started with the OLL report and the question of, who's going to provide oversight, who's going to drive this thing forward, and who can lead the effort to structure, consolidate, and create a more efficient Connect Montgomery Alliance, or Access Operations. And that will be me, of course, with the collaboration of the Access Operations, of leaderships of TEBS, and of course the close working with Joe and Dr. Costas Torregas. And so we have led efforts to consolidate. We have structural changes. There's been a call to not do things status quo. We've done status quo for many years. Over the past 3 years, we've made significant changes, almost super fast, and there's a lot of questions associated with that, as it should be. We should not be making these types of moves without some serious thought and without serious collaboration. I want to kind of focus us all around there's 7 different access operations in the county, so I want us to focus in on, most of the discussions are on the access operations that receive unrestricted funds. And in that, it means that in any given year, the funds associated or allocated to these organizations can change, can fluctuate based off of the desires of the county executive, OMB, and TEB's recommendation, as well as, of course, influenced by council's guidance. So these are the 4 operations. County Cable Montgomery, we don't need to give them increased oversight. They're run very adequately by, that might be a low word, but very well by Sonia Healy and Mary Anderson. Sonia Healy is the council's information officer, and the county's information officer, Mary Anderson, helps to guide the operation of County Cable Montgomery. So they are covered. The government directly influences and manages that operation. The other 3 operations, Montgomery Community Media, Montgomery County Public Schools Television, Montgomery College TV, award-winning organizations each with strong leadership, are also receive unrestricted funds. However, Montgomery Community Media has a contractual relationship with the county that helps set forth requirements, guidelines, KPIs, and basically a guideline for how they do business, what types of value they're going to provide to the county. All right, and so you have these 4 different organizations, 2 of which receive direct oversight or influence from the county government, 2 that do not currently receive direct oversight or strong authority from the county government. All right, okay. And of course, this is an overview. Montgomery Community Media provides community access operations management. Of course, they run one of the better news operations, I guess, for Montgomery County, Maryland, as well as provide video production support to the county, and provides a vehicle for residents to not only learn how to use technology to use their voices, but a place to display their voices, not only in cable, but also empowering them as content creators to share their voices wherever they may find a place to share them. You have Montgomery County Public Schools Television, who delivered a very incredible video associated with the recent school closure due to the snow, with featuring Indiana Jones. They've been doing a fantastic job of what they do, of course, which they cover the board meetings. Of course, they also deliver information from the superintendent, and also have a major role in helping with the media services aspects for Montgomery County Public Schools communications. And last but not least, Montgomery College TV, who serves a very strong role in the operations and the outreach for Montgomery College, and has, again, another award-winning cable access TV channel. And so the other types of access operations are the operations that receive restricted funds. They have memorandums of understanding and letters of agreement with the county that dictates how they receive funds and how we distribute funds to them and all those things. So that is set. So the way they receive their money and all those things are predictable. It's easy to follow. There's no fluctuation there. Okay. You have Montgomery Municipal Channel, of course, that serves quite a few municipalities in the county. You have Rockville 11, a very strong channel focused on Rockville, and Tacoma Park TV for Tacoma Park, Maryland, of which some of us are very familiar. And those are the operations that receive restricted funds. Now, these operations in the past have been very collaborative, and in the future can continue to be very collaborative, but it's mostly voluntary. And so we applaud them for all the efforts in the past and look forward to them continuing to collaborate and voluntarily participate in a lot of the efforts that we have moving forward. All right, and so how did we get here? All right, so around July and August, we had a very thoughtful process, and what we wanted to make sure we did in all of these changes that we have is make sure that people are involved, that people are aware, everything's above board. We have the hard conversations, and I don't know, not sure if I want any more hard conversations, but we had some very hard conversations. We met directly with the leadership associated with the function of the cable channel for Montgomery College. We met with the leadership, of course, with the people that are directly associated with the management and oversight of Montgomery County Public Schools TV. And of course, we met with the leadership and the board for Montgomery Community Media to have one-on-one conversations to outline what we're planning to do, what it might mean, ask any questions, and respond to any types of questions or requests that might be associated with possible changes that may affect those organizations. In September, that was July and August, culminating in that series of events, those meetings, we had one grand meeting with everyone involved where we had a fork in the road where we can change things through RFP, where each organization can compete to lead the efforts to consolidate the access operations, or they could come together as a unit and decide to, on their own, to form a consolidated organization. And during the last meeting, as I understand it, I was there, so I didn't hear it, I was there. It was decided that they will consolidate on their own volition, so to speak, and they will consolidate under the umbrella of Montgomery Community Television. And the reason why that's important, or that makes sense, is that Montgomery Community Television already has a contract with county. They already have a secondary contract with the county that helps them generate additional revenue. They're already a 501c3 organization with a board of directors. They have a complex accounting system that is designed to process fundraising initiatives like sponsorships, grants, even they're able to make invoices to clients. All of the revenue generating things that we've proposed in the past that are kind of hard for a school access operation to do or a college access operation to do, now through MCT, all three organizations can receive the benefit of through MCT. So it made sense, it makes sense, and it's easier for them to expand and incorporate the additional organizations into the new consolidated structure. Also, they have a visionary leader who couldn't be here today. She wants to be here, and she had plenty of meetings with me to make sure that I don't say the wrong things, which I've probably already done. But she's a national leader when it comes to access operations and community media. So I think she's in a great place to help guide this effort, and she works very well with her board of directors. And I know that she's open to the continued hard conversations and hard work that's going to take us to continue to move forward to making this a effective and cohesive new but old organization. So, all right, and so in September we began research on some of the other elements of the strategic plan, social media monetization, figuring out different requirements. So I worked with MCT to figure out how do we monetize things, because we want to do it. We want to do it for ourselves because we need to generate revenue, and passive income is the best kind of income. So through some social media vehicles that the access operations qualify for, we're encouraging them to sign up to receive passive income through monetization of their YouTube accounts. If you have YouTube or you have a YouTube account, you know that YouTube places ads on your material already. However, if you qualify, you meet certain requirements like 10,000 subscribers or certain thousands of hours or hundreds of hours that's required, then you can also monetize your account. So that's one of the ways that we're trying to generate revenue through the access operations. October 2025, launched content creator training. So we took the information that we used to help position our access operations to understand how they can monetize their operations. And we are using that kind of like a passing the flame along to the people. We are now having, or not we, but Montgomery Community Media is facilitating workshops for content creators in the county to be able to learn how to be a content creator, but also, more importantly, how to make it a career. How do you monetize? How do you eventually become a sustainable micro business in the county? All right, in November, part of the strategic plan for the Connect Montgomery Alliance in FY26, it's in my plan, but it actually originated in the plan that was developed by the Connect Montgomery Alliance, which was a decision to discontinue Connect Montgomery Alliance meetings, or to discontinue the organization. And so in November, the Connect Montgomery Alliance had its last meeting. So as of November 2025, the Connect Montgomery Alliance no longer exists. However, the brand, which is a very strong brand that we've worked on over the past several years, meaning TEBS, community engagement, and the Access Operations, COMO, is still a great brand. And of course, COMO has a great significant meaning in different languages. So that brand will still exist, but it may not necessarily be associated directly with the Connect Montgomery Alliance, which no longer exists. We worked also with CUF, and we've had some great conversations with CUF, so we don't have a letter of agreement or a contract, but we've had conversations that says it makes sense for us to partner. CUF is the community use of public facilities. They have clients that want to rent our spaces that may also need multimedia. So it's akin to a florist partnering with a funeral director. That's a bad analogy, but it's a great opportunity for the county to use the strengths of separate organizations to provide one robust service to the residents of the county, and also it's a good way for us to generate revenue through that partnership. What's developed from that partnership? We almost had our first paid client from WSSC. We're not going to delve too deeply into WSSC. We actually potentially have a partnership from Montgomery Community Media with the Silver Spring Civic Center. We've had meetings with the older director who has received a promotion, Eric Rash, and now we've met with the new director to see if we can formalize the synergy so that when there are clients that want to use the facility, but their needs, or AV needs, are beyond that of the internal staff. Silver Spring Civic Center doesn't have to request an additional budget line item or more money. They can reach out to Montgomery Community Media, which has, again, as we mentioned before, the business acumen, the accounting systems, and the ability to generate invoices, and of course the media services ability will be able to provide those services. And not only are they able to provide those services within what their current strength, and collaboration, of course, with the college and the schools, they now have a diverse set of skill sets associated with the people involved. They have more readily available equipment, and they're in a unique position now as a larger organization to move fast and be agile. So instead of talking every now and again, they'll be talking a lot more frequently. So when there's a need, they can meet and they can share resources. And that's what we want to see from this consolidation. We want to see shared resources. We want to see the Access Operations doing their best. They can't do it all themselves, but they can show a great effort in which they have, to generate the revenue that they can, to consolidate and work with what the county recommends. And they continue to do that. So I'll leave that there. But we made great progress with CUF, and we are working to collaborate, and we've even had meetings of as recently as a couple of days ago to see if we can fulfill a need for a future client. I'm not going to mention it, hope it happens, but we are working, so there is traction taking place. Begin a marketing campaign for content creator incubator programs. MCT received additional funds to create that program and to launch it, and to see and develop how that benefits residents, and see what unique needs need to be considered as they tailor it to ensure that Montgomery County can be a place where all our wonderful artists and people that have opinions and ideas can be better equipped to share their voices with the world and possibly make money off of it. Hopefully that small initial program can grow and provide more service. Maybe we can partner with other revenue generating or job training related entities to have concerted efforts. So that's December 2025. We're now in February, and so in January 2026, we've finished kind of coordinated with CUF to figure out how we're going to do things. And I think we have a decent understanding, but need to work more. And then we also need to work upwards to make sure that the leadership of CUF is comfortable with what we decided at my level. And then also, as we move forward, we need to make sure that the way that we engage with CUF clients is appropriate and streamlined and smooth. And then lastly, in January, MCT and TEB submitted a strategic plan to council. And so that's where we are now. You have our strategic plan, and you also have a strategic plan from MCT, or if you don't, we'll make sure that you have it. And their plan focuses, I'm sorry about that, I'll make sure that you receive a copy of that. Their focus is primarily on how they consolidate. Consolidating 3 strong entities is not a simple task. It's a lofty goal, which we are attempting to achieve. It's going to require a lot of conversations, a lot of meetings, and it's going to require letters of agreement, which I believe MCT, the college, and the schools are working towards creating and presenting to the county. At the same time that they're working to formalize that structure, TEBS and the county are working on revising and modernizing the Montgomery Community Television Master Contract, which is about 10 years old, but in the world of media and technology, it might have well been 20 years ago. So we're going to try to right-size it for the amount of revenue that is being transferred, or funds being transferred to Montgomery Community Television, which might be significantly lower than it has been in previous years. So we're going to try to right-size what we're asking of them. Actually, I think one of their board members says you can't ask us to keep doing the same thing with less money, and we can't. And so we're going to try to incorporate that way of thinking to make sure that we create a fair environment for the Access operations. And we want to make sure that the county is able to follow through on its goals of increased authority and oversight from the county over not only Montgomery Community Television, but also to the schools and the college through this consolidation. So we'll be able to, through the contract, ensure that there's a fair environment for these 3 operations to consolidate. And by fair, I mean no one is lording over the others. MCT doesn't say, thank you, come on in, and now I'm the boss. That's not necessarily going to be the case. However, I believe Jasmine will still lead MCT. She is still the CEO. But there will be a collaborative environment, and what we hope to be a fair environment. In FY27, part of our discussions that we had with individual organizations was a request to maintain the amount of funds they would have received if we were not consolidating, and we followed through with that. So there may be a question, why are they still receiving the amount of funds that they would have received anyway, is because that was part of what they'd like to see in the consolidation. The other part of that was we still like to have our channel. And so you may be asking, like, can't we just hurry up and throw everything together and mix it up? We don't want to create, I don't want to say a monster, but we don't want to jar anyone. We don't want to make things uncomfortable for the existing people that contribute to the successful operation of the channels. We don't want to create an environment where they're not productive. So FY27, the operations will have the chance to come together, decide on their own how they're going to consolidate, what their working environment is going to be like, how they're going to share resources, how they're going to get paid. Of course, probably they're going to figure that out probably the first day of the meetings. And from there, they're going to present a strategy to TEBS, and of course, for your review as well, to tell us how they are going to lead the consolidation. We're not going to tell them how to do it. I think we have enough smart people on that side to know how to tell them how to do it. Along with that, I believe one of the questions that were posed, which was a good question, can't they also think about programmatic changes? And so we're going to also ask them if they can incorporate that in their planning process for FY27, so that in FY28, not only will we have hopefully a fully functional, consolidated, cohesive, powerful organization, which may be one of the largest media organizations in this area, working in favor for county residents, but we'll also have them ready to make some changes, some modern changes. There may be changes to the people like me that still watch cable and love to have the TV looking at him while he takes a nap, or watching football without having to worry about buffering or anything. But for people that still watch cable, because there's still people that watch cable, because it's still cable fund money, even though it's diminishing at a rate that is significant, but there's still people that watch, so we still have to account for that. And we receive the money, a lot of the money, to make sure that we operate our access operations with a idea or a goal to provide the very best programming possible, and to provide the most value to county residents, and also to provide them with voices where people can hear them and they can be seen. So that's pretty much how we got here. There is more that I can share with you that's in the plan and also in the timeline that goes all the way through December. Very ambitious plan, and a lot of changes, in my opinion, happening in a short amount of time, especially considering the amount of change up to this point. But I'm here to answer any questions even now or later. And I thank you for your time and for your continued support of the access operations of the county in our efforts to improve the dynamics in the county.
Webster, do you have anything else to add? Are you good? Yeah. All right. Great. Well, why don't we dig in? I'm going to kick us off with some questions. Mr. Kenny, thank you very much for that overview. I will again bring us back to the OLO report, because the first recommendation from the OLO report had to do with governance. The report had recommended, OLA had recommended creating a governing entity, and that was one of the things that we've discussed. As you said, it was one of the reasons you were put in the position that you were, and we are where we are right now. But that need to bring folks together and have some type of governing entity, was identified, and I think I'm glad we're moving towards that. I do have some questions, and I appreciate the report in your presentation, but I think it's important as we're making this transition that we're really clear on who's doing what. Mr. Kenny, I again appreciate the work you're doing. Many times you used we as we're talking about things, but as we move forward, it's not a we. Correct? You are not, TEBS, our county agency, is not going to be involved in the decisions moving forward, correct? Or how will you be involved, I guess, as we're redoing the master contract with MCT/MCM?
I believe TEBS will continue to be the administrator, the contract administrator, and through that we'll have all the rights and abilities as a contract administrator of the county. So we can set forth the requirements, the objectives, and the goals for the contracted entity. In this case will be Montgomery Community Television. So we will no longer be part of an ad hoc organization, like Connect Montgomery Alliance. We will now serve as the contract administrator that is administrating oversight, and we're able to, within the contract, provide guidance, but then also ways to incentivize them to do what we like them to achieve for the residents of the county. There may be other things that TEBS will be accomplishing and seeking to achieve, but that's kind of the main thing. So we won't be part of MCT. MCT is their own thing now, and we're going to be asking them to provide leadership, not only to the unrestricted funds access operations. We want them to continue to work collaboratively with County Cable Montgomery to ensure that there's still synergy there and that there's still collaboration there, but also to create an environment where the operations receiving restricted funds are invited to the table and invited to contribute the same way they did via the Connect Montgomery Alliance. Additionally, we'll be, at the end of each year, or towards the end of each fiscal year, we'll be bringing together key stakeholders the same way probably the same ones we met with during the discussions regarding the consolidation, leadership of the schools, leadership of the college, the board members of MCT, to do a debrief. What went well this past year, what didn't go well, what needs to change, and then we can make an amendment to the contract that will help us to adjust how we're doing things, make things better, or create a better environment for the new entity to achieve the goals and directives that we have for them.
Great. So TEBS will be the contract administrator, and that's, we function like that a lot in our government, so that makes sense. And you said you were now revising the master contract, so that's going through that process. Will that be finalized before MCT does the contracts or the letters of agreement with Montgomery College and MCPS?
No, we anticipate that the letters of agreement that will help to unify the three organizations will be completed before we finish our contract. We are working with our lawyers that are very well-versed in public education and government operations, BBK, to shift to direct to craft the updated contract. And we also want to have some input from our partners from national organizations like the Alliance for Community Media and NATOA, to make sure that as we do this is not something that's a unique situation. Consolidation of entities to be more efficient and to save revenue and to make adjustments to declining cable revenues. So we want to make sure that we're not recreating the wheel. If there's best practices or things in other contracts or agreements that we can benefit from, we want to do that as well. But additionally, we want to make sure that we don't do this too fast, so that we give everyone that might need to see the contract or see what's in the contract a chance to review it before we move it further. And I think there was a question that was posed, which was a good question. Perhaps there's other eyes that need to see it before it moves forward. But we like to have it done before the end of the fiscal year. But it will not be done probably before the letters of agreement are done for
So
MCT.
who's party to, I guess, just going back to, as we're trying to figure out all these different pieces and doing this transformation, and as we said, this paradigm shift, I guess my concern would be, since we have not set out those guidelines in the master contract for MCM, and they're working on these letters of agreement, they don't have what we want to require or set as standards as they're negotiating letters of agreement with MCPS and MC. So I know it's a bit of a chicken and an egg type thing, but I just want to voice that concern that if MCM is negotiating letters of agreement with the other two entities, how are we making sure it's part of the vision that we all have moving forward?
That's a wonderful question, and this is
Yeah.
why it's so complicated. It's kind of complicated. It makes sense in my head, but
Yeah.
then trying to get it out. So what we're hoping that MCT is doing now is creating an environment where everyone knows what's going on. So they know the individual entities know how they're funded. They know how they're receiving their funds, when they're receiving their funds, those things, how they work together. But it's also unifying them and making them all obligated as Montgomery Community Television is obligated to the county. So when we make a contract with Montgomery Community Television, we're making a contract with the consolidated organization. And so the oversight and the governance and the guidance that we're giving MCT now should apply to the components of MCT, because MCT now is not only the community access operation, it's now the community and education access operations. And so our contract with MCT will apply to the individual components within.
Mr. Kane, so I'm not a contract lawyer, and I'm not even going to pretend to play one on TV. So I would just say, even cable TV. I just, I think this is a place we need to follow up on with the attorneys, because I hear what you're saying, and if I'm Montgomery College or MCPS, and I'm now negotiating letters of agreement with NCM, and then there's going to be a master contract with the county with MCT, MCM. I just want to make sure all those pieces are falling together, and who's writing and who's involved in the negotiations between MCT and MCPS and Montgomery College.
So part of my strategy is to put them in a position where they are empowered to make that happen themselves. So I'm not totally privy to who's in those discussions, but Chris is here. Chris, are you part of those discussions? Letters of agreement? Yeah, please. Is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So, all right.
Nice to see you, Chris. Good morning.
Good morning, Chairman.
Yeah.
And thank you. I'm Chris Cram, Deputy Chief for Division of Communications at MCPS. We're at the very beginning of those discussions.
Yeah.
And we've had preliminary talks with Ms. White from Montgomery Community Media. This work needs to be done quickly because the fiscal year will finish very quickly. And I take your point very directly that there's a chicken and egg situation here. It is absolutely appropriate to have government represented in the interests of what is ultimately decided. And of course, we have interest in what those MOUs, letters of agreements, ultimately say that support the schools and the community at large. So there's not much to report really beyond that because we're at the very beginning of those conversations. It seems like, since Como has disbanded since November, that this should move more quickly. When Ms. White returns, because we know that time is against us, we're going to accelerate those. Because we're very keen to understand where we'll be next year. Because we have to start planning for what happens as we come back to school in August and what happens throughout the fall. We have annual same service work, plus the need to be collaborative with the remainder of the network to support the community at large. Mr. Kenny mentioned about items that are coming up where we can collaborate. There's a meeting on Monday, again, with somebody who's trying to provide services through the Silver Spring Civic Center. We hope that comes to fruition because that very much show how we can do this work in the future. So I share your concern about moving quickly on this, but we're not there yet.
Okay. I think this is also, for Dr. Torregas, a point of a follow-up because I think as we're doing this handoff, because we don't have a contract yet, the master contract updated with MCT, we still need to be part of those conversations.
I agree.
So I appreciate empowering entities and people to do the work. At the same time, we are at a really critical juncture, and we may need to help facilitate some of that work moving forward. Mr. Cram, I don't know if you agree with that.
One commitment I think you have from all of us is that despite this chicken and egg situation, that we're going to keep the entire community and government interests in mind as we have those conversations. And we may need to reach back out through Derek to find out if we're in alignment and on our way.
Yeah. And again, it may be helpful to be part of some of those conversations rather than brought in when they're at the 12th hour and playing a bit of catch up. Because this is going to move very quickly, just think having TEBS and still part of some of those conversations as those letters of agreement are, being worked out will be important. Because I think it also then informs the changes that are going to be made with the master contract with MCT. So, all right. So I think that is really helpful in understanding just the structure and the handoff there. And I've been talking a lot, so I have a bunch more questions, but I'll turn it over to my colleagues. Councilmember Evans.
Yeah. So thank you, Mr. Do I have it on? Thank you, Mr. Kenny, for the presentation. That was very helpful because a lot of the questions that I had, you answered to some degree. And then it was helpful, hello to Mr. Cram, to have you come up and share because I hadn't heard the voice of MCPS. So it was good to hear what you had to say. So I heard you talking about there have been conversations and collaborative conversations and discussion, and so based on what my council member, my colleague has said, that there isn't a consolidation that has actually taken place. It's just been more of conversations and been more collaborative. And I was going to ask you, so when are we going to get that done? But you stated about the letters of agreement going into place. I also had the question of the structure, but you said that we had not received the strategic priorities, and so you're going to forward that over as well, correct?
Correct. I would like, once we get past the initial draft of the contract, which is trying to mimic some of the, extend the controls and requirements that we have for MCT to the educational operations, we can tailor it now. And so we want that to be a very above board, open, and collaborative process. We don't want to do it in a vacuum. So we may have a bunch of, not a bunch, but there'll be more meetings to make sure that we consider what should be in that contract. What does the county want from this new organization, so we can make things clear and not ambiguous for them, so they can figure out how they can maintain their services to their parent organizations, but also to the access operations. So it's easier to be efficient if they know exactly what we want from them, so they can incorporate that into how they perform as a group.
And easier, you mean MCPS?
MCPS, Montgomery College,
right.
and MCT.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then, although the paperwork has not been done for the consolidation, you've been, in a sense, operating as though you're consolidated. Is that correct? Because I was confused as I was reading all the materials, I was like, so has the consolidation happened already? But I thought it was going to happen, but it's happened, but it's not actually.
I would like to, a work in progress is a good way to describe it.
Okay.
We're in the strategy, and so the strategy was FY26 and FY27. So we're in FY26, and we continue to push forward to make progress, but we don't want to move so fast as to not get the input needed to make sure we're shaping something that is of value to the county and that operates and functions the way the county would like to see it function and operate.
Okay. So then my other question was this, and maybe I'm not thinking about this correctly. Is there, so MCM is, like they have a contract with the county. Is there a conflict with them handling all the funds for MCPS Montgomery College and dispersing that? Like how?
We're going to tell them how to disperse it.
You're going to tell them how, so it's going to.
I guess that's a simple way of saying that we will require them to adhere to the recommendations of the county executive on how to distribute the funds for the access operations. So ideally, and we're still working on these things, so it may change. Ideally, at the end of each year, there's decisions being made of how to fund each operation. And so through the updated amendments or whatever, we can outline how much MCT allocates to those different functions within the organization.
Okay. So I don't want to speak for my colleague, but is this what's going to be included in all of the write-up that hasn't yet
Yes,
been
yes.
finalized? And so I know okay, because
yeah.
Go ahead. I was just going to finish and say, just for my comfort, I would like to have all that before.
And I'm going to bring in people to help me to help make this make sense.
Okay.
And make sure that it functions well. You know, I think we have a good concept, but we're going to need people to help us kind of hammer it. And you know, we have like what's shaping up to be a beautiful sculpture, but we're still chiseling at this big rock. And so ultimately, if we bring in the right people, and which I think we are doing, and get the right consultations and stuff, I think we'll be able to shape something that makes things clear and easier to understand. It'll still be a contract, which is going to have a lot of pages and line items and scope of work and all these things, but it'll make things clearer for not only us, the county, but then also for MCT and the different parts of MCT moving forward.
I'll just say, so I've been trying to get up to speed on everything, and I see that the timeline goes back for quite some time. The OLO report was done a couple of years ago. And then to your point about the cable funds, which it has been greatly decreased, you know, I hadn't thought about it until you started talking, like in thinking about the economy right now and people tightening their belts, people are not everybody is paying for cable. They're going through different channels to get information. I guess the people that are, so I heard you talk about you might be lying on your couch watching football or football's watching you. Most people that do subscribe to cable are probably doing it for a variety of channels. But I know people that I'm hearing in the community as they talk, they're doing YouTube, they're doing Netflix, they're doing Prime, because you can get sports channels all through all that. So I do see how the fund is being heavily impacted, and there has to be other creative approaches. Can I ask another question? You talked about the content creators and that work that's being done. Is that a way just to offer something back to the community, or is that another way to get additional funding to be able to support people in the community just to do work? Explain that to me a little bit.
Part of it is a modernization of the mission for MCT. MCT's mission in serving the community. Years ago, you would have empowered people to provide content on the cable access TV station. Now, I believe the market and the need is more of supporting content creators and benefiting from their good work. We're still in the beginning phases of trying to introduce this notion and modernizing the approach to community media. What does that mean in 2025 as opposed to 2015? Can it be a revenue generator? Yeah.
Okay, I was going to.
You know, as a guy that loves to try to find ways, entrepreneur that has an entrepreneurial spirit, it would make sense that if we could empower someone and we partner with someone, to say there's a gamer that wants to be the next I Show Speed, you know, start off as a gamer, but they don't have a PC at home, they don't have high-speed internet, they don't have a desk to sit at. We can, you know, it's kind of a good example of digital equity. We can give them, we could develop an infrastructure that be able to support people like that want to be content creators but don't have the resources available to start showing what they have to offer to the world, and then of course generate revenue. Because it is a revenue generator. People are making millions of dollars a year as content creators, maybe even months. I'm not even sure how it is now. It's ridiculous. But to the point of making money, if MCT invests in these people, I'd recommend. I don't run MCT, but I'd recommend that if it's almost like a record label. If you bring in a new artist, you have them sign a contract. We're going to invest in your development. We're going to give you studio time. When you start making money, we want something back, and so. It could be a revenue generator, but I can't speak on behalf of MCT because we can require them to support content creators as opposed to empowering people to just learn how to use the stuff for the cable operations to programming for cable. But we do want a way to benefit cable ultimately. So I always want to tie things back to cable. So we do have someone that people want to watch, whether it's a gamer, whether it's somebody making Etsy stuff, or teaching people how to cook. If they are, you know, even if their intent is just to show it on YouTube or whatever, we'd also like the cable channels to benefit from that. So we can work with MCT to make the best of that, but I believe that is a niche market that we can capitalize on, and we could be in synergy with the needs of residents now, as opposed to many years ago. If we say we can help you be a better content creator, it sounds better than I can help you make a good cable program.
And I forgot that was under MCM, and with you mentioning it, I just threw that question back at you. But I'll yield to my colleagues.
Mr. Brown, did you want to chime in on a point that was made earlier?
Yeah, I think first I wanted to thank Ms. Evans for her question about the details in these upcoming letters of agreement. Details matter and how we do our work. And by extension of that, exactly what Mr. Kenny's talking about, as we explore other areas of revenue, we're going to need support from legal services. Where can we go and what can we do? And then to push those boundaries so that we can bring in other areas of revenue, whether it's sponsorship. We have been, for many years, connecting government to citizen, but there's a lot more in Montgomery County that should be connected that would support the overall county, such as business. So where can we go with that? a very small example of that is for many, many years, and Mr. Katz, you may remember, we had a live homework television show helping students, Homework Hotline Live, and we had sponsorship for that. It wasn't much, but it helped offset the costs of the program. How can we take that to scale and help offset what might be lost by cord shaving or cord never, and that's a new one for me today. And maybe I'm just representing my age there, but cable is still important, and connecting content, contextual content, to community remains important. And if I may just finish that, what we do, the college, MCM, county government, we're all very complementary and not duplicative. And we have to keep that in mind as we move forward. That's one way to find those efficiencies. Search for things that are duplicative and cut them out.
Well, if you're going to show your age, I'm going to show mine. How's that sound? First off, thank you very much for being most helpful to try to work this thing through. This at times is confusing. And you know, I go back to when nobody heard from cable. You had an antenna on the roof or rabbit ears on your TV, and people said, pay for TV? Are you crazy? We're not going to do that. But everybody did it. And of course, I had the pleasure of being in Gaithersburg when it had its first cable show, first cable network. The county didn't have it. We had it. It was a big antenna across from what is now Casey Community Center. I think it changed hands many, many times, and ultimately Comcast bought it and has kept it. So, and then we at one time had all kind of issues because we were so independent. We shared a cable station with our friends from Tacoma Park, and you didn't see Gaithersburg in Tacoma Park, and Tacoma Park wasn't seen in our area, and then of course all that changed. So, and thank goodness. And you're right, the status quo is not going to work. I mean, things have changed, but I guess the first question that I had, and I think it also needs to be noted, that the cable channels throughout the years have really changed lives, not only for information and not only for people seeing the meetings and whatnot, but it actually got people jobs. I mean, there's people on television today as we speak that were, their first jobs were hired in Montgomery County, Cable 21. I mean, that was a springboard for so many. And to get to the whole idea about how we're going to get money out of this deal, you know, it's one thing if it's academic or whatever, if there's an ad for that or someone sponsors It's Academic for your channels, but you also have to be extremely careful on what kind of people you want sponsoring various things, and so that has to be worked through. I remember when you had Homework Hotline, and that was well received. I mean, and so there are many things. I guess one of my questions is for MC and MCPS, how much beyond the monies that you receive from a cable fund do they actually put into their work, their stations?
I'm not sure I completely understand the question.
Are their budgets only for what they receive in cable fund?
No, in
Yeah, that's what I'm
MCPS,
asking,
I can't
yes.
speak for the college. We do have 3 positions that are not paid for by the special revenue fund we receive, and then a very small account that supports office supplies. The remainder, the vast majority, certainly all of our equipment, come from the special revenue fund. Is that what you were getting at?
Yes.
Yeah.
And so what happens to those people when this consolidation or whatever we're doing here, what happens to the people that are doing the work now?
So our entire group will support whatever collaborative effort we set up through these letters of agreement. Those positions will remain, the positions that are funded through the special revenue fund, and although it's Montgomery County Public Schools Television, we actually have renamed it a bit. It's Montgomery County Public Schools Multimedia Services because we wanted service in the name as we transition to this new effort. So by way of extension, the whole group will support however we're servicing the community with media in the future.
Okay. I think, and certainly the other questions have been asked as we go through.
Sorry, Councilman Katz, did you want to hear from Montgomery College?
Yes, of course. I always want to hear from Montgomery College. How are you?
That's Melissa Pace from Montgomery College.
Yep.
Very similar to what Chris was describing. We're trying to embrace the new model. The leadership at the college is sorting through this, as we speak. And there's a deep intent to try to keep all the staff as best as we can.
Have you all ever had sponsorships for anything, any programming?
It's been a long time. I think it's been very minimal. In the past, we have received some grants, pieces of grants that are larger grants that have an academic purpose, and that, excuse me, and that there's been a component that had a video, and we received a part of that grant, but that's been pretty small.
And getting, Derek, on the whole idea for the PEG channels, are we certain that you can get ads, et cetera, on a PEG channel? Has anybody double-checked that?
Oh, I'm sorry.
The guidance we got at the time we had our homework program is that it could be in the nature of sponsorship, not marketing. Because we can't sell products through the public dollar. And I'd want to check that with a lawyer again.
That's my concern. So if the money for the cable, which is the public is paying that fund, I mean, on your cable bill, it says this is going to whoever, that if that money is still going to the new entity, are we allowed to do the ads and the sponsorships?
We can certainly do sponsorships. I believe in the franchise agreements, particularly I believe for Comcast, there's provisions in there for sponsorships of programs, but you cannot place ads. You can also use the funds to generate revenue outside of cable, but you have to make sure you're careful to account for those separately and be able to report those. So the things that we're doing, I believe, are in line with the franchise agreements. We can always check again, or someone can check me. But I do want to say that what's not being considered, and which I probably haven't mentioned about one of the key stakeholders, is also the cable franchises.
Yep.
And I always have in the back of my mind that at some point we have to go back to the table. So we want to make sure that they know we're still in the business of doing cable. We still want funds to operate the cable access operations. We want to provide the most value possible for the residents of the county, but we also want to make things that are compelling and interesting to residents that they want to watch. So if they want to do ads or something and provide us with a cut and give us some analytics, then, but I think one other thing I wanted to share, and I didn't share it earlier, that this strategy is not a cure-all. It's the best effort of organizations with limited resources and ability to affect their future. There's an increased need for media services in the nation, in the county, and part of the strategic plan is to hope that we can also generate additional revenue by meeting some of the additional needs of the county that might otherwise go to other places that can possibly go to MCT to help generate additional revenue, and any other help or things that are out there that could help the access operations maintain would be welcome. And so this strategy is the best effort of TEBS and I guess Nexus Operations to bootstrap ourselves and make the best possible situation within our collective power. But there will be a need for additional help.
And I'm going to stop, but for the office, for the cable franchises, when they needed us because they needed the right-of-way. They don't need us so much anymore, but they needed the right-of-way. And can we double-check, and is the office of the county attorney involved in this, that we're not violating anything that we said we wouldn't do, and they're not violating anything they said that they wouldn't do? I guess there's only about 3 or 4 actual cable franchises in Montgomery County. There's many other entities, but there's only about 3 or 4, and they've consolidated and spun off and everything else over the years. But we have to be extremely careful what we're going to do, because we need to head in a different direction. We just want to make sure that they're okay with it and that we're okay with it.
And I
Thank you.
think that goes back to our question before, in making sure as MCPS and MC are doing letters of agreement with MCT, that our master contract with MC, like, that all these pieces are worked out, right? Because I'm imagining our office of the county attorney is going to be working on the master contract. But if we're not looking at those letters of agreement, this is where I think there needs to be like the double check, because if we're having letters of agreement between MCT and the two entities, we need to make sure that is in sync with our franchise agreements and in sync with what we are working on for the master contract. Does that all make sense?
That does make a lot of sense.
Yes.
And we are making use of the expertise of, I believe, BBK. And I spoke and recently, and speaking with Jasmine and speaking with MCT recently, it might be a good idea to have them help provide services to Montgomery Community Television as they develop their letters of agreement, since they're also working on the master contract, to make sure that there's some type of synergy there. And then, of course, we will, I believe, share it with all the appropriate parties, including the county attorney, which makes full sense. And if it doesn't work, we'll fast fail and we'll try something new. But we're going to do the best we can and move it forward and keep it above board and transparent the entire way. And I think that does make sense, to make sure the county attorney can review this and approve it or make adjustments or recommendations.
Good,
Great,
thanks.
awesome. I have some questions. Yeah, oh, sorry. Mr. Cram, did you want to jump in?
Only to add that our own legal counsel will need to review any agreements moving forward, and of course, that adds time to the process.
Yes.
No.
And I'll just note for folks that I see Montgomery College nodding their representatives there, assuming, yes, that would happen. A couple of other things I had in my notes I just wanted to raise for consideration as we're moving forward is, again, as we're revising the master contract and kind of, I'm going to say hand off, but it's kind of handing things off to MCT. In the county, where we have relationships with other boards like Strathmore or other things, we have ex officio members of the county executives administration and the council serve on those boards. I would recommend that this is discussed and explored as the county exec's office and the council be able to appoint people to serve on MCT's board. That helps with the connection that I was talking about before as we're moving forward. I get to serve on the Strathmore board. I think it's, and for Ms. Fariba Kasari serves on for the county executive, and I think it's been very helpful in making sure that we're, present as the board is discussing things. We know things, we can bring it back to our colleagues here on the council, and there's that continuity of information sharing. So I would just ask that that be also part of conversations moving forward, since it'll be a different relationship under all of this. The other part on, because we talked about, and Councilmember Evans talked about, like, we've talked a lot about consolidation, and just so that we're all clear, and I want to restate this and make sure I got it right where we are in the process, and if I get this wrong, let me know. So right now, the consolidation really has been looking at equipment and studios and how, like, so we're not duplicating, and so one entity isn't going out purchasing or doing things. So it's mainly on equipment and studios, correct? That phase, this are the phase we're in now.
That was the first and easiest place to start.
Okay. In that sharing of equipment and everything, have we been able to move to a place where the different entities are no longer needing to, when in a pinch, hire private contractors? Have we moved into the phase that we're able to also share responsibilities. And so if somebody of MCPS needs an extra hand, instead of going out and hiring a private contractor, can they call MC or MCM? Are we at that stage yet?
And that is the nature of this event that Mr. Kenny has mentioned through.
All right.
Absolutely, we would, and with the support of our colleagues across the PEG, be able to support that event without contractors.
Great, awesome, that's terrific. And then the next phase, which, looking at the strategic plan, looks like it's going to be over the next year, which is then looking at the programming and how you all are going to have those conversations. So that's then the next phase. Correct? Great. Seeing heads nod. That's great. I just wanted to make sure I understand, because I think we use the term consolidation, and it means all three of those things, right? And probably even more things that we're not thinking about right now. Trying to see, there's a lot here. I think in terms of, unless my colleagues have any other questions or things, one other thing I think is really important, as we're talking about looking at revenue streams and everything, is really grounding ourselves in the main function and serving that. And I know you all have that front and center as well. Coming back to where I started this, as I'm glad the banner is here now in Montgomery County, and they're probably going to expand to Prince George's, but we are seeing a withdrawal of the Washington Post and the meager coverage we were getting over the last couple of years. It will now be even less, and so I think really figuring out how we're going to deliver on being that trusted information source is so very important. And I would just ask Dr. Torregas, I think, as some follow-ups, I think this is probably a good point that maybe we can work on a letter from the GO committee to the full council, just updating them on these big changes, because I don't want to, all the work you all have done, we're asking very detailed questions here, and you all are really doing transformational work. And so I think making sure that our colleagues are aware of where we are in the process would be important. And then I think what I would ask, and I think, Mr. Kenny, this might fall to you, is if this committee could get maybe monthly updates, just short updates on here we are with the process, here's how things are going, would be very helpful. Just as we said, that time is short, and these are big conversations that have to be happening, and I think it's as we start the budget process here, it'll be helpful for us to just keep kind of track of where we are. But I think with those things, I think we're good. We're good? All right.
Thank you.
Yes, Dr. Torregas, yes. You get the last word.
Since we have the experts here on the table, I just need to ask them one question. You talk about the master contract. Are you referring to the 2024 signed contract between TEBS and MCT, or is there another master contract that you're talking about?
I believe the signed contract with 2024 was a competitive contract for video production services in support of County Cable Montgomery and media services for the county, and that's not the master contract, no, sir. I believe the last master contract was created in 2015, thereabouts. But however, I can go and make sure and.
Would you provide a copy
Yes, sir.
to the committee? I think that would be helpful, so we know where we're starting from to change.
Yes.
Great.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. We very much appreciate you coming in, MCPS and MC. Thank you for being here. We appreciate that. All right. TEBS is going to stay because we're going to move on to the what was, just for those folks tuning in, agenda item number 4. We bumped that up to agenda item number 2 so we could do the review of the capital improvement program for our technology services. And Dr. Torregas, you are still in the hot seat.
Right. This is a fairly straightforward item. Every 2 years, the executive sends over a full 2-year CIP and asks to fund the first year. of that CIP. TEBS has 5 programs in their portfolio, and you see them on page 1 of my packet. 2 of the items, the council president has decided to require the Public Safety and Geo Committee review jointly because of the importance in the public safety domain. They're the Public Safety System Modernization and the County Radio Lifecycle Replacement. So you will not be reviewing these now. You'll review them sometime in mid-March. I think there's still a date that's loose, and we're trying to knock that down as quickly as possible. So in front of you are 3 projects: County Building Network Wiring, FiberNet, and Montgomery Connects. I asked a series of questions to TEBS, and they responded as they usually do, with very much detail and quickly. So you have in front of you the questions I raised, the answers they gave me, and I presented some. After reading their answers, I've organized a couple more additional questions that you may want to raise, but I have no additional comments at this point. I would certainly recommend approval. I'm somewhat concerned as your budget analyst that the executive has really reduced significantly all 3 of these CIP programs. And to me, in technology, unless you maintain the infrastructure, unless you maintain the equipment, you begin to experience a downgrading of services. So I asked explicitly TEBS to address with you the question of, are we cutting too much here? But you have it in front of you, what the executive has recommended. With that, I perhaps ask Ms. Evans to take us through, Ms. Randolph.
Ms. Randolph, great.
To take us through the original questions. If you
Great,
please.
thank you. Ms. Randolph, if you want to take us through it, and while I appreciate Dr. Torregas raising the issue of the budget, I'm going to say I also appreciate, because I feel like the last 3 years when we've gone through the technology services CIP, and when we get to the operating budget, this committee has always been like, do you really need that much? And you all, I will just thank you, because I think particularly in the past 2 budgets before, you all have gone back and given really critical thought to the budget request and worked with this committee and the full council. So I just want to acknowledge that, and knowing how tough this budget year is going to be, I have really appreciated the partnership with TEBS over the years to really think about how are we maintaining, as Dr. Torregas says, our infrastructure when it comes to our technology, and then also realizing our budget constraints. So thank you for that. And yeah, Ms. Randall, we'll start with you.
Thank you for those comments. And I know that the creation of this CIP budget, that critical thought continued over. I know that Mr. Webster and his team looked very closely at the various projects that we had ongoing through FY26, this current year, things that we could close out, the hard work that went into being able to close those things out, and looking at what we needed to go forward to be sure that we were continuing to be resilient in our technologies going forward. I'm going to have Mr. Webster address any of the questions or the packet to talk about some of that work and critical thought that they actually went into for this particular CIP submission.
Great.
Thank you. Well, we've worked very hard to try to maximize the benefit with the funding that is available, understanding the pressures that exist for county funding in general. So Dr. Torregas did ask several questions that we responded to, and additional follow-up questions. I'm happy to address those, or any other questions that council members may have.
Great. All right. Councilmember Evans, Councilmember Katz. Let me just switch gears here on the cable fund. Great. I'm just looking through. I'm not. Yeah, Councilmember Katz.
To Dr. Torregas' question, are we cutting too much? And I know that puts you all in a hot seat because you're on the county exec side. But I think we really do need to know what we're not buying. We know what dollars we have, and if we're not buying enough, to Dr. Torregas' point, at some point we are hurting ourselves. You know,
we're being penny wise and pound foolish. So I don't know whether you can answer that, whether you want to answer that now, but whether if you could answer that, to know what we are not being able to buy if this budget were to go forward this way.
Sure. So it is a difficult position. But in the near term, TEBS can prioritize mission-critical systems and focus limited resources on the highest risk assets. So in this fiscal year, next fiscal year, we can make those decisions and prioritize. However, over time, continued funding constraints will increase the likelihood of deferred maintenance and slower modernization cycles, reduce redundancy, and greater cybersecurity exposure. So there are risks from not funding sufficiently this infrastructure and keeping it modern. When I joined the county 7 years ago or so, we were in a very large hole, I will say, quite frankly, that had been dug over the prior decade or 2 decades. So for the last 7 years, under county council, county executive, and CIO leadership, we've been able to dig ourselves out of that hole. And as I've said, candidly, to our partners at OMB and county executive, we don't want to start digging a new hole. So there are risks associated with that. I think for fiscal year 26 and 27, we can manage those, but if the reduced funding continues, those risks will increase.
Great. Awesome. I don't have any other questions. Dr. Tragus, anything? No? All right. Well, thank you all, and we appreciate you spending your morning with us. Thank you very much.
Reminder that you have to recommend something to.
Oh, yes. So, not like the other thing, we didn't have a decision. All those in favor of recommending to the council the budget items put before us for the CIP, please raise your hand. And that is unanimous. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Turigas. Thank you again. Thank you. All right, now we will move on to what had been items number 2 and 3 on our agenda, and I see Mr. Mia coming up. And we're going to go over the FY 27 to 32 capital improvement program, amendments, general government, county offices, and other improvements, and other general government. Mr. Mia, as folks are coming up, do you want to go walk us through it?
Sure. Good morning. I'll just do a quick summary. Today you'll be covering the general government, county offices, and other improvements subcategory of the CIP, as well as one project in the other general government category or subcategory, which is a new project, the African American Historical Markers, which is administered by DGS. The other projects in that other general government category are administered by ABS, which will be covered at the Economic Development Committee sometime in April alongside their operating budget. Overall, this subcategory is largely a same services in terms of changes and amendments. These are mostly level of effort projects, with few exceptions. Most have been kept at the same funding, 6-year funding level as previous years. So we'll walk through those projects as well as the exceptions to that rule. But I did just want to quickly turn your attention to Table 1 on page 2. This is a table of all of DGS's level of effort projects that are funded by GO bonds and current revenue. The 6-year total is $163 million. As we noted last month in the CIP overview and the gap that is currently exists, these projects may be impacted as we go through the development process and through CIP reconciliation. In terms of priority, staff would not recommend cutting too deeply into these, as these are really just maintenance projects. These are not new projects, so that would be staff's opinion on that. But again, given the size of the gap, everything is kind of open for discussion. But I just wanted to keep that on your mind as we move forward. But other than that, I'll stop there and see if there are any introductory remarks or questions.
Director Dice?
Hi there, David Dice, Director, Department of General Services. I am joined today with what we in DGS affectionately call the Gregs. Greg Boykin to my left, Chief Operating Officer, and who oversees facilities and its related projects, as well as DGS operations. And to my right, Greg Ossent, who oversees capital projects and development on behalf of DGS and therefore the county. I do not have a PowerPoint presentation. You're welcome. But I do want to reiterate a comment made earlier by our colleagues at TEBS that it is impossible to do the same thing with less money, and yet we're increasingly difficult to do it with the same money. But to echo Mr. Mia's comments, this is essentially a status quo level of effort. As you know, our facilities continue to age, and I applaud the efforts of my staff, both in the capital and operating facilities side, for their spectacular job in doing as much as they do with what they're given. But we're certainly sensitive to the pressures across the board in the CIP. And of course, you'll be seeing a great deal more of me and Mr. Ossent in subsequent department CIP hearings where that will become painfully true. So thank you.
Great, thank you. I just have one question I wanted to go, appreciate the overview, Director Dice, on, don't have page number, on, it's point number 6, the energy conservation, and just talk about the county buildings, and as we're moving forward on our, energy performance standards, if you could talk a little bit about where we
Certainly.
are on that and
Well,
what's being done.
we are in the middle of energy assessments of buildings, BEPS, the new building energy performance standards. Of course, the county is required to comply as much as anyone in for the public that is watching this. I always like to stress the county and Department of General Services in particular firmly believes that we won't ask anyone to do what we won't do ourselves. And I believe it's important that we lead by example. So we're very aggressively pursuing the work required by BEPS to bring our qualifying buildings, approximately 20 buildings, up to meet building energy performance standards. We're in the middle of assessments on that right now. As you can see in the coming years, FY 29, 30, 31, and 32, we're going to be experiencing need for capital repairs and improvements to those buildings, and this includes everything from, and we typically try and spread some of this around, but building energy elements such as HVAC systems, lighting, building monitoring standards and systems, connecting a lot of buildings back to our central building energy performance control system at our facilities headquarters. So this is a wide range of elements that affect how our buildings perform. We're continuing to expand in related projects, microgrids and turning many of our buildings, particularly in small neighborhood community centers, into resiliency centers, so the public can rely upon those in times of emergency and stress. But energy conservation itself is precisely what the title implies, reducing greenhouse gas emissions while at the same time improving the performance of what are in fact some quite old buildings. If you've heard me say, if our buildings were people, many of them would qualify for Medicare.
Awesome, thank you for that overview. I just want to put a plug in for the elevator modernization. As we think about, as Councilmember Katz said before, our infrastructure and making sure that we continue to invest in that.
Absolutely.
They're very important.
Another one of my pet phrases, if it moves, it breaks.
Yep.
And our conveyance systems, both escalators and elevators, move all the time. And followed by HVAC, building comfort, which is our chief number one complaint or comment from our building occupants and users, are elevators. And I have the benefit in Greg Boykin, who's a subject matter expert on elevators, who has held our contractors to the fire. And we've developed a pretty comprehensive program approach to improving and replacing elevators. Elevators are not inexpensive to replace. Our focus has been on the Judicial Center North Tower, but we also have some other problem children, most notably elevator at Progress Place, which is heavily used, and I'll just leave it at that, and is constantly require repair, and we're going to do some major work there over the coming year, should we have the funding.
And I'd be remiss if I didn't thank Mr. Boynton for all his work at Progress Place and keeping that place together and running. It's I know there's been challenges, and we very much appreciate all your attention to that. Thank you. Colleagues, anything else? Yes, Councilmember Katz.
First off, thank you all for everything you do, from the David and the two Gregs. When we upgrade energy, the conservation, et cetera, do we keep a list of how much we're actually saving on the cost of electricity? I see you shaking your head.
Oh, most definitely.
We do. And how substantial is that?
Significant. Since we've been monitoring it in the millions of dollars. We keep track of everything, not only from an overall savings, but I can say, for instance, from an overall standpoint, while we have been adding to the county's inventory of buildings, we're building new buildings, expanding existing buildings, while we're adding to the square footage of the building, we're actually reducing the cost of energy on a per square foot basis, which is significant. Yeah. But yes, short answer is we track it, and we track it very, very closely, and we can provide that data anytime you're in.
Well, to your point earlier, we shouldn't do something that we're requiring somebody else to do. They might want to look to us to say how much they can save. I always go back to LEED certified in your days, Greg, and people didn't want to necessarily do it for the conservation. It's going to cost me more, it's going to cost me more. But when they could save substantial money on their energy, all of a sudden they were conservation people.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And while I'm a big supporter of the LEED standards, the change that the county made a few years ago in its building code to the green building code and BEPS really drives at true conservation when we're looking at not only how we're reducing, which is LEED's focus, is reducing environmental impact of buildings, including just the receiving of materials for new construction, how far they had to be delivered, that kind of thing. But once I build a building, that building's going to be there for at least 40 plus years, and we have to make sure it's operated efficiently, not only for the benefit of the users and occupants of that building, but for the environment in which that building exists. So that has been a principal focus of General Services, not only in our new buildings where we're building net zero or near net zero buildings. 6th District Police Station in the north part of the county is the first net zero police station in the country, second net zero public safety building in the country. And that's a standard we're carrying forward with new buildings. Older buildings are much more of a challenge to retrofit, and so we're trying a lot of different things, exploring new technologies and new approaches, finding some that work better than others, and that's part of this process. It's a maturing process. At the same time, industry technologies are improving. Elevators are better now than they used to be. Solar panels used in our extensive expansion of solar across county facilities, that is performing. Building management systems are improving. So we're doing all of that with the funds that you see represented here.
Good. Fine. Thank you.
Okay. Councilmember Evans?
So I don't have any questions. I was going to say I appreciate your candor. I know for me it's very helpful to understand or to know the things that we need to be thinking about as we make these decisions. And while there is a decrease, that there's still more that needs to be done, and
Always.
And just being conscious of that and figuring out how we can help you all continue to meet those needs.
Well,
so I just wanted to state that. Yeah.
And Councilmember Evans, since you're new and you and I haven't had a chance, opportunity to explore this, we're more than happy to sit and get you to know DGS whenever you're convenient.
And what you will find out about me is I love to get to know more about everything that's happening in the county, because it helps me when I'm making decisions.
Well, you
so
have your chief of staff reach out to me, we'll schedule.
absolutely, we'll do that.
Great. Mr. Mee, anything else?
Nope. We can walk through individual projects if you'd like, or.
I don't think we need that. All those in favor of recommending to the full council the recommendations in the CIP, please raise your hand. And
Thank you very much.
Yes. Thank you all. Thank you for being here. I believe that is our last item for today, and this committee is adjourned. Thank you.
Take care.